seconds. All right, we're back live. And hi, everyone. Welcome. Sorry about the technical, apologies for the technical issues there. Just to catch everyone up, today I'm speaking to Gunaseelan Kannan of Blueprint Planning and Samantha Yeoh of Vantage Advisories as well. And Malek Ali, founder of filife, is moderating this conversation with me. And we're talking about how to construct financial plans that can weather any crisis. And right now, Guna is taking us through a case study of his. In fact, a client of his and the financial plan that he built there. Sorry, Guna, could you take us, could you illustrate that? Could you take us through the case study again, please?
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. Today, I'm going to share one of my clients' experience, how by writing a financial plan, they have smooth sailing their financial journey in any crisis. My client, an employee attached with a logistic company. He is the single income provider. Since he is the key person in the company, he also has some shares in the company he works. The wife is a homemaker. Both my clients is in their late 40s actually. Annual income is around 240,000. They have two daughters, both are studying in private college. Initially, they did not have a proper budget when they engage my services. Most of their asset is very liquid, and some of them are in unit trust investments. They wanted to start some investment to grow their wealth. That is the only purpose actually they engage my services. And they have only one property, which also for their personal consumption. Clients wants to retire at the age of 60, and client also want to allocate children's education fund, children education fund. This is some of their goals which we discussed, and we want to achieve these goals. Then we continue with the developing the financial plan. After developing the financial plan, I realized they have limited resources actually. I explained to them the importance of emergency fund rather than focusing on investment right now. It will be better once we have our emergency fund and the children education fund on order. Then client agreed to set a 1-year emergency fund, which is 240,000. Next, before we move towards to investment, I told them since they are also reaching age 50, it's good for them to reduce their liabilities. So I suggested to reduce their liabilities, whereby full settlement of their mortgage loan need to be done, so that there will be some improvement on their cash flow, because the installment for the mortgage loan is almost about 1,800 ringgit. So I told them this, once you settle this, this cash flow will be appearing on your inflow as an inflow. Then last year December, actually my client was terminated from his company because of some dispute among the partners. He lost his job actually. He lost his job. No doubt, they were emotionally down, both husband and wife emotionally down, but they still have their emergency fund to rely. Surprisingly, my client actually went for a 2 weeks holiday after they know that the company has sacked them, sacked my client. They just want to rejuvenate themselves and think back what to do after this. Is this the end of the world? Where to start? These are the questions was arising to them. Only after returning back from the holiday, they met me to discuss their financial strategies. And we went through their financial situation. The good news was they can sustain their lifestyle at least for another 2 years without any income. And what is the key message I want to deliver from this case? Actually, when we develop a financial plan, we have an eagle view of client's financial situation. The client came to me to get an advice on investment. I convinced them to write a financial plan actually. By writing the financial plan, the client understand that they have no resources for investment now. Imagine what have happened if they have started investment without an emergency fund and not allocating the children's education fund. Uh, and the client also have a proper budget to manage their cash flow now.
So
That's all.
before, this was a plan that was built before the crisis hit, correct?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, and this is when your client at that point had lost his job. He was the main breadwinner, and essentially, and he had 2 years of runway with in terms of that with that plan. He had 2 years to
Yes, exactly.
to go with that.
To develop the emergency fund and also allocating the fund for the children education.
Right. So this was 2 years ago, and what made that plan? How has that plan fared with the crisis in mind now? So this was 2 years ago. We've been going through an MCO, movement controller, for maybe 5-6 weeks at this point. Do you have any insight as to how that plan has fared?
As I said just now, when now people either they are having some pay cut, some of them have lost their job. If they have lost their job, if they have not developed an emergency fund, it's going to be very difficult for them to sustain their current lifestyle. The question we need to ask today, what are the lifestyle expenses we have? A simple example I can give you, Roshan, drinking a coffee. If you drink at home, you just mix a Nescafe, you drink at home, it's going to cost us about 50 cents, 60 cents. The same coffee, these are utilities we want to consume, you see, as a consumer. The same coffee, we go and drink in a mama shop, it's going to cost you about 2 ringgit. The exact same coffee you drink in white coffee is going to cost you about 6 ringgit. The same exact coffee you drink at Starbucks is 15 ringgit. Without knowing our lifestyle inflation, we have developed these characters. So by writing a financial plan, actually we can identify what is our lifestyle inflation. Can we go back to our normal lifestyle? These are the questions can be answered at this moment. Looking at, we are in the MCO now. We just need some basic needs in our life.
And Sam, could you tell us? I think you have a story for us as well, a case study. But yours is, your client was a business owner, so that could be also very helpful for a lot of people out there to have that example.
Yeah.
Could you just set that up for us?
Yeah. Okay, so basically I met this client last year, early of last year. Okay, this client, a business owner. So he have family of 3. Okay, both of the clients are at late 40 years old. Okay, and they have 1 children which is age 16 years old. And this business owner, in fact, is a single income earner family. The wife is a housewife and also have the old age parents to taking care of. Okay, so his annual income is 240,000 per annum. Okay, so when he actually meet up with me, basically he mentioned about his goal. Okay, can I have next slide, please? So his goal is basically, first thing first, there are a few areas that he is mentioned to me. First thing first is on risk management. First, he mentioned to me that, in fact, I do not know, I bought a lot of policies, but I do not know my coverage is sufficient or not. Okay, and I think that I paid quite a substantial premium a month. So then can you help me to review where am I right now? So on the second part, he mentioned that I do save money, but I lost quite a substantial money as well in investment. So I do not know that where is all my money? Did I invest in the right place? Okay, so these are all the questions that he highlighted to me. And last thing he mentioned to me, in fact, I bought few properties. I do not set aside a will writing as well. Okay, and my wife is not working. My children is actually still studying at secondary school. So these are all my concerns. So after we listen to all his sharing, so we do a thorough fact finding process. So when we do a thorough fact finding process, the key learning lessons that we learn from this fact finding is, in fact, we found out that first thing first, he earned a quite good income. In fact, it's just that he do not do a proper budgeting on his monthly expenses. As you know that he is a business owner, okay? So sometimes due to his too focusing on growing his business, he tends to make sure the company and personal expenses together, especially the entertainment. Sometimes he forgot to claim after he paid, okay? So that's caused the impact on linked to the outcome is he had deficit of cash flow per annum close to 36,000 a year. Okay. So another one thing is we also found out that he actually committed 7 policies, included himself, spouse, and dependent. He paid more than 25,000 a year on that. And the interesting part is his debt serving ratio is 40%, which currently he's serving 4 loans. Okay. And do he put aside a certain liquid asset? The answer is yes. So when we asking him, hey, sir, do you know that what is the purpose that you put this money into this financial vehicle? So his answer is, I just save law. Okay, so that's why he do not specifically clearly identify is this his emergency funding or not. Then at the same time, the interesting part is we found out that even though he got liquid asset, he do not clear off his credit card debts, which is cost about 35,000, and he paid a minimum payment every month, which is a 5% of the total 35,000. Okay, and from the investment portion, as you mentioned that he mentioned earlier, he made a loss. So we find out that in fact he is making more than 200,000 losses in a share market, which is he exposed himself into an overseas market with some remiser assistance. So with that, at the same time, he also invested his money into various vehicles via local bank and overseas bank as well. On the other hand, he just invested without identifying where is the money is actually investing on. Okay. Lastly, he do not have a will writing in place with wife not working out. So throughout the 10 months experience working closely with him on restructuring, okay, what are the outcomes that we have achieved? First thing first, definitely when you work with a financial planners, we always will help you to clear off high interest rate debts first. Okay, so after first thing first, we will need to focusing on consolidated his liquid asset and doing investment review and restructuring. Okay, so the outcome that we have achieved is first thing first is on credit cards debt first. So we clear off the credit card debts. The part that we immediately we can see the result is we free out 1,007 per month from his monthly income. Okay, so the inflow, at least there is a reserve fund on that. Okay, so on the second part, what we actually identify is we help him to actually specifically identify the emergency funding. We put aside emergency funding and identify to him that, sir, this is your personal expenses on your emergency funding. In the event of anything or any uncircumstances happen into your family members, this is the funding. So he is actually have a clear picture right now. And another one thing what we do is we consolidate all his investment out back, and we identify, we help him to review whether it is good to keep or it is good to restructuring. We identify.
All right, we seem to have lost Sam there for a little.
The right risk profile. Okay. Okay.
Hi, Sam, are you there?
So the last part is on the outcome. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So another one part is on risk management. Be able to help him to review the overall 7 policies. Okay. The good part of it is what we found out that there are policies is unsuitable. So why we say unsuitable? He paid higher premium with lower coverage. So after we help him to restructuring, the ultimately is the outcome that we have achieved is he have higher coverage with the lower cost that premium that he paid. So the outcome is he mentioned to me that at least Sam, I have peace of mind. Okay. And the property that we have identified that is a need for him to bring in active income, because he bought a property without serving anything, leave it there without bringing in him any active income. So we highlight to him, then he work with the property agents to actually rent it out, so that at least the active income he collected from the rental income, he able to actually pay off the mortgage loan repayment. Okay, so at the end of the sections, right, on this restructuring, what we can see that from the money, from the annual deficit of 36,000 right now, currently he do not have any deficit on his monthly cash flow. He able to save some portion of the money into his retirement. So with that, right, recently I called him, okay, on the second phase of MCO. So I set up a Zoom meeting with him. So I asked him, this meeting, the agenda is for us to update you the moratorium package. Let's see whether you need to apply it for your own personal usage or not. So after we go through the whole presentation, so he mentioned to me two things. He actually sharing with a smiling face. Okay, he mentioned to me, Sam, in terms of my personal expense, personal financial, I would like to highlight to you, with the current funding that I have, without doing anything, I can sustain for 2 years. Okay, so I do not have stress on this part. So in terms of my company financial situation, we have about emergency funding can last for 1 year without doing anything. But perhaps because of during this lockdown, due to I no need to actually stress out on my personal financial and my family, okay, I am spending my time to focusing on finding the new strategy, the new way how to running my business at the new norm. Then I spending my time to train my staff since the MCO lockdown. So with that, I would like to say thank you to you. At least 1 year down the road, you, no matter how, whether I'm willing or not willing, sometimes I delaying to do certain commitments that I'm supposed to do to get the restructuring process in place. Thank you for you to push me out throughout this section. And I also never expected that MCO is happen in Malaysia as well. Okay, so
Right,
with
sir.
that, for business owner, okay, in fact, there is a way to solve the issue. Do believe that every problem that occur, there is a solution to solve on any circumstances happen. Okay.
All right, Sam, thank you for that. I think now if you've just joined us, I'm speaking, Malek and I are speaking to Samantha Yeoh of Wealth Vantage Advisory and Gunaseelan Kannan of Blueprint Planning on how to construct an all-weather financial plan. And it's basically something that can withstand any crisis. And they were just giving us real-life examples, one from an unemployed case study and one from a business owner, both of whom had plans that have really withstood the COVID-19 crisis. Now now let's focus on what makes a good plan and why these plans were able to really manage the volatility we've seen in the financial markets, but also in our personal and home lives in the country here. So Guna, let's start with what are the key attributes that make up a good financial plan?
Yeah, Roshan. So what makes a good plan? Firstly, client should have peace of mind. This is the main criteria in developing any financial plan. Second, the client should achieve their aspiration. Now, why I use the word aspiration? If you ask, if I ask, what is your financial goal? The list is never ending. I want to buy a car, I want to buy a house, I need a retirement fund, I want to go for a holiday, and many other things. And aspiration is something gives you an inner happiness and self-satisfaction. It's actually more than money. Let me give you a real life example. You have two goals, where the first one is to climb Mount Everest, and the second is to buy a brand new car. Both these goals will financially cost you almost the same amount of money. There's nothing wrong with in both goals, but in my personal opinion, in the long run, the first goal contains the inner sense of achievement and happiness. that you may not derive from getting a brand new car, as we can still substitute the brand new car with something for a lower cost.
Guna, just one sec. Malek, yes, you wanted to add something in there.
Yeah, I just want to say, I guess I just want to bring the discussion a little bit more directly involved with something that our audience can use. I think one thing that I've learned from both Sam and Guna's case study is that you mentioned this thing about emergency fund again and again. One client had about 1 year, the other client, I think both your clients had 1 year, and I think Sam, your client had 2 years. So is to you, is this emergency fund thing, is that a part of every good plan? Any robust plan must have an emergency fund cash? Is that what you're saying?
Definitely, Malek, definitely.
So okay, so Guna, what you were talking about there is financial goals, right? So you can't have a plan without a goal, or you can't have a goal without a plan, something like that. So whatever the goal is, now there are certain criteria that make a certain financial plan good or better than another financial plan. Like I can have a financial plan of I just want to be stable and I don't have to change anything, right? Because income remains the same, expenses remain the same. So depending on the goal, whether you're planning for education, whether you're planning for retirement, your plan changes there. I guess the question here is when you're looking at your own financial plan, let's say the goal is retirement. You want to look at things like investment and growth. And you also want to look at protection, which is insurance and coverage and all of that. So in a all-weather financial plan, what are some of the most important things to have in there? What do you got to think about first, second, third?
Okay. So now from the investment perspective, Roshan, a good financial plan should focus on goal-based investment rather than a market-based investment. Example, if we have an intention to send our children to Australia for education, that means the goal is supposed to be we need to start accumulating wealth in Aussie dollars. It's not since the market is low now we're going to buy a stock. This is the difference between goal-based investment and market-based investment. So the investment should focus on the goal. The second part on the protection from the financial plan perspective, the insurance coverage will be developed according to our financial goals. So we can identify whether are you over-insured or under-insured. This can be very much clearer. We can clarify this. I hope I answered your question, Roshan.
Oh, yeah, sure. Definitely. I think those are two things that we need to pay attention to with the longer term financial goals, right? So, well, how about, and Sam, please feel free to join in just whenever you have anything to add to what Guna said there.
Okay, so basically, just now you are highlighting that which part should go first. Am I right? How to identify in the financial plan? It is subject to the life stage of individual. So I give an example. In fact, basically the risk management is the priority because risk management has certain restriction in terms of your health conditions and in terms of your age group as well. Okay, so basically once we put this in place, then the next thing that we will need to review it into an investment part. Okay, so investment basically you when you work with a financial planner, ultimately the financial planner will actually highlight to you that how to reducing your financial costs. Okay, what does that mean? Meaning to say, right, whatever plan that you wanted to put in place to achieving your goal, you're not supposed to pay a higher cost on it. Agree? So when you work with financial planner, this is the benefit that you can actually work on, rather than maybe after you set up by yourself, you establish certain thing, 10 to 15 years down the road, then you only realize that in fact the cost that you have paid out, like investment sale charge or investment plan that you're putting in, is actually eat up certain values of your financial. Okay.
Right. So essentially, the cost of things there, sometimes the management fees, or even the opportunity to refinance your mortgages, your loans when rates go down. These are essentially opportunity costs to your own pocket. Malek, you wanted to add something there?
Yeah, I just want to add something from, I guess we were running a bit of a Twitter poll. I think, sorry, we couldn't put it on Facebook. We had some technical difficulties in putting a poll on Facebook.
Maybe Facebook didn't like that we put it on Twitter first.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting. I mean, we talked about financial plans here, and the results of the poll are as follows. We asked, if you had a financial plan pre-crisis, how has it served you, right? So 21% said very well. 40% said it's keeping me afloat. The 6% says it didn't work. And but the interesting part is 32%, almost 1/3 of everyone said they did not have a financial plan. So that, at least, I guess, this is kind of like, I think what it says, that a significant minority of us do not have a financial plan. Any comments from our panelists on that point? Sam.
Okay. Basically, do not have financial plan. I would like to propose, I do believe that when we actually, financial planner, go to the ground to meet up with most of the Malaysians, most of them have kickstart certain things. That they have kickstart to buy insurance, they have kickstart to actually do some saving, investment, will writing, or certain gold investment, shares investment, tradings. Perhaps, right? Most of them, in fact, make a decision without a holistic view of their financial situation. So that's how they make a decision. Like a very clear example happened in Malaysia is an individual, mostly if you are at age 30 to 40, you will have 3 to 4 insurance agents with you, servicing you. You may have unit trust consultant, more than 2 to 3 to serve you. Agreed? So basically, in fact, you are doing something. It's just that when you are doing something, every individual come to advise you, they just come with their own perspective without looking at your financial situation. So I would like to encourage whoever, the 32% who do not have a financial plans, just don't get mistaken into engaging financial planner is very expensive. In fact, it's not. It will help you to save a lot of financial costs as well. Bear with me, financial cost is expensive in long term. Okay.
So I think, Sam, what you've illustrated there, it really is that we all have a financial plan of sorts. It's just whether it's a complete financial plan or holistic. Maybe it's unbalanced. Maybe we focus too much on protection, or focus too much on investment, or maybe entirely on cash flow and expenses. But there are so many other things, including estate planning, taxes. It's about being able to balance all of that together. Malek, I just want to ask you, actually, when did you start thinking about your personal finances? I mean, maybe you can give a bit of a color there.
Yeah, well, I started thinking about it when I had my, I didn't think about it when I was a bachelor. I didn't think of it when I was married. I only thought of it when I had my first child. That was the first time I actually went out and actually engage advisors, actually. And I realized that a lot, as you say, I mean, a lot of people come to you with products, right? They come with products and so on. They have this product that they want to sell to you. And I think the time when I felt really comfortable only was when actually someone came with advice, with a plan. I think that was the biggest thing. When they were not selling me products, they were actually saying to me, Malek, let's have a chat for an hour and let's discuss a plan for you. And I think that was the turning point for it. And even I can tell you, I talked to even private, some of these big bankers, they call it private banks and so on. They're still selling product. Just the other day, I got HSBC calling me, trying to sell me a structured product. I'm like, oh, please, thank you very much.
So, Malek,
sorry, go on.
Yeah. So, what would you tell your younger self if you could talk to 25-year-old Malek right now? What would you tell him?
Yeah, that's right. So I think here it ties in with a question from Shazana Razali. He says, how do you engage younger generation from mass market, mass affluent to commit towards thinking about managing a risk? Well, I think the first step is, Shazana, I think first step is basically for them to think about their a plan. Actually, basically, again, same things. What are your goals? What would I tell my younger self? I'll say, hey, you're young. You have, think about the kind of insurance policies that you need. You don't need that many insurance policies when you're young, unless you have dependents. You don't have dependents. Your parents, you actually, you don't have dependents. You do not need to provide for a kid if something happens to you. So you really do not need, other than health insurance and maybe even critical illnesses are likely to happen to you. You don't need that. But what you need when you're young is a good savings plan or investment plan that takes advantage of compounding interest. Only when you start to get to have dependence, then it's things like then insurance comes into play. So what my younger self, I would say, focus on investment for you in your specific situation. Yeah, take advantage of that compounding that's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is something on Ringgit and Cents, we talk quite a bit, the power of compounding interest, right? The only better time to start investing was yesterday, if it's not today. And essentially, starting as young as you can is important, and doing things doing things in the long term. And I think going back to what you said earlier, Guna, it's about financial planning, right? It's about setting those goals. That's very important. Investing isn't about just getting into the market, but it's about why are you investing? Are you doing it because it's for retirement? Are you doing it for your kids? So based on what Malek just said, Guna, do you have anything else you'd like to add to that? Maybe your own personal experiences with your own clients, some of the common mistakes that they've made in terms of their own personal financial plans. And just one more thing, a financial plan sounds daunting, right? But what it is really is just step by step trying to take care of your money today and then hopefully tomorrow and the day after. So Guna, do you have any common mistakes that some of your clients have made or needed to help rectify?
Before we go to the mistakes, what the clients do, many of us are very concerned about our health today. That means what we do is actually we annually what we do, go to the doctor, we do a blood test. We want to identify how is our sugar level, what is our cholesterol level, how the liver is functioning, and these are the information we need to identify to make sure that we are in a good health. It's the same thing goes to the financial plan. The financial plan is actually a report, blood test report. That means we want to know what is your debt ratio, what is your saving ratio, is your debt ratio is high or low, is it manageable, do we need to reduce it, how is your saving ratio, how is your cash flow, is there a lot of leakages is happening in the financial plan. This is the items what we actually we are focusing before we move on their investment strategies. What I see today, many of them immediately, especially business owners, when they see they make a lot of money, immediately they want to grow their wealth. They want to double up their wealth. So what they do, they focus on the investment. So I suggest they need to come back and sit down with a financial advisor. They need to go through what is their current situation is.
Right, so if you've just joined us, I'm speaking, Malek and I are speaking to Samantha, Yeoh of Wealth Vantage Advisory, and Gunaseelan Kannan of Blueprint Planning on how to construct an all-weather financial plan. And right now, we just before this, we were going through the essentials of what makes a good plan, or at least how to start there. I think a common question that we're facing right now is it too late to build a plan now? I think, Sam, do you have any thoughts on this?
The answer is no, definitely no. Okay. In fact, like we always say, Rome is not built in one day. Okay. Financial planning is a process that you need to look into where are you right now in terms of your financial situations. Where is your current financial resources? No matter how much is your earning. Okay. So don't get me wrong that financial planning is only for rich people. The answer is no. Okay. So what we are actually looking on is, if you know where is your current resources is, how can we actually use it optimal, okay, in a wise manner way, in order to align to achieving your financial goal. Like recent things happens to me 2 years ago. There's one guy is actually age 56, working in GLC company. In fact, most of the people say, hey, at age 56, almost reached the retirement age, he's not supposed to get a financial planner. Most of the common understanding on that. In fact, no, when he came to me, he said to me, Sam, I still have 4 more years to go. When I reach 60, I will be fully retired. I don't have active income from my career anymore. Okay. So what I wanted to you to assist me is to identify, hey, where am I right now? With the current funding that I have, by the time 4 years down the road, how much I will have at age 60. And from the age 60, if let's say I can live my life until 80 years old, per month I can spend how much? Okay, and at the end of the day, we found out that in fact we have a big celebration. In fact, he has surplus on that. Okay, he can live until 90 years old. In fact, okay, with the basic expenses that he actually put in. So now basically what we do is once we got this roadmap, is considered a GPS for his post-retirement. Okay, so what we do, so we will, as a financial planner, we will review with him that, hey, sir, do you wanted to increase certain of your expenses rather than you keep it so low? Because you have surplus on that. Okay, so then he said, in this case, I add on additional holidays, one more holidays for me. Is that okay? So we add on with a certain budget. So we redo the calculation. So with that, then he can actually see it clearly where is his financial situation after the post-retirement. Okay. Now, another one part is what he worry about as a Muslim. His wife do not working, okay, since young as a full-time housewife for 40 over years old. So he have one kid, okay. So he said that I do not know that whether if something happened to me, I wish to perform my Hajj next year. If I do not able to come back, okay. I live in Holy World, so I don't think that at age 23, my son able to handle such a huge asset that I leave behind to him. Is there any solutions that we can work on for him? So if you look into the different life stages, right, at pre to retirement, right, you also have certain concern that you need to put in place. So basically, if you ask me, is it too late for you to actually set aside a plan on financial planning at this MCO period? The answer is no. It is a good time for you to highlight and look into your current financial situation, find out where is your GPS right now. Is it going to north, going to south? Okay.
Yes, Malek, you want to add something to that? Sorry, Malek, I think you're muted. I can't hear you.
So sorry. There's a question from Facebook. The gentleman called Jack Runner, a gentleman, I think, on Facebook. He says, how much does it cost? And this is a big question. Everyone is a bit, if you don't know how much it costs, you might not want to. The question is, how much does it cost to get a financial plan done? I guess it's true. When you don't have transparency, people are even afraid to ask, right? So straight up question, I want to use your services. Guna, how much would it cost me?
I think about 2,500 to 5,000, depending on the complexity of the case, actually.
Okay, and Sam, how much would it cost?
We have modular and comprehensive plan. Modular will cost minimum 1,000 to the maximum of comprehensive with 3,000. Okay.
Okay. So it's not a crazy amount. It's a reasonable amount, right?
Yeah. So if you work onto a monthly expenses, a comprehensive plan to look into your holistic view of your financial planning is only cost you 250 per month.
Okay. Fantastic. Another one, again from a listener from Pun Kihon. I think your case studies both of your case studies referred to people who are earning about 240,000 gross annual income. Which is about 20,000 a month, right? Including bonuses. I mean, roughly. Yeah. So there's a question here from Pun Kihon, which is to say, what is your advice for people who are sort of not that sort of brackets, like 8K and below, basically the middle income, right? Are you able to create a decent financial plan? What is, do you have examples of people who have created plans from about that kind of, between 5,000 to 8,000 ringgit a month kind of like salary?
Definitely, Malek. The income is not the measurement to write a financial plan. I don't agree to that. It's, whatever the income, whatever the goal, we need to write a financial plan. Anybody is an income earner, I suggest they need to write a financial plan.
Okay, all right. Yep, over to you, Roshan.
So actually, let's just follow up a little bit on that. Now, anyone needs to write a financial plan, and that's, I think, the point we're trying to get across. Everyone should have one, or at least have a trajectory. I think, Sam, the GPS analogy was very apt. Essentially, the financial plan or any plan helps you to at least know where you're going and where you are now. A lot of times, we don't want to look at our personal finances because maybe we don't like what we see there. What would you advise people who maybe it's ignorance is bliss, or at least in this situation, but obviously that's going to creep up on you one day. How would you advise people to start? And let's talk about people in the M40. You've got a few things that you've got a few things that you haven't really been paying attention to. Where do you start when you are looking at your personal finances? Is it income? Is it debt? Is it income, debt, expenses? Where do you start?
Okay, so basically, let's look into, to answer Mr. Poon's questions, to add on into M40's group. Basically, cash flow management is a heart of everyone. Okay, so if the heart is not healthy, the rest of the goal will not be able to achieve. Okay, so why I say so? The inflow, meaning is your income. Your income versus your outflow must have a surplus. Otherwise, right, you were actually focusing on expenses. So normally what we are actually working on is once when we kickstart to develop a plan, we will need to actually reviewing how's this person expenses is. Okay, so to answer Roshan's question that is there anybody refuse to change? The answer is yes. But how can a financial planner work together with a person to encourage them? Okay, so first thing first, we need to actually have build out the first trust first. Okay, the purpose why you would like to engage a financial plan, you need to get your reason clear first. Then you will need to actually see that if I change now, what is the outcome that I will achieve down the road, 1 year down the road, 2 years down the road, together with this financial plan. Okay, so now basically how to handle the ignorance. So we need to using the facts and data. So normally what I do is I will do the simulation, okay, based on your current expenses and your inflow versus your outflow. If you do not do anything changes with the assumption, without the increment of your salary, what will you see your financial in the next 5 to 10 years time? Okay, is this what you wanted to see? Now let's put another simulation. If let's say you do the changes, down the road, 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, what will you see the changes in your financial situations? So when we put this in place, right, most of the people can see it clearly based on facts, then they will actually agree to slowly change with the constant communication and review with us. Okay.
And I think, so that's what the financial plan does, right? So
Yes.
I think that's the first thing you do is, I think, a 6-point check with clients. And I think, Guna, is that what you were referring to with the 2,500 ringgit, the initial thing to build that financial plan? That's where you get that data, correct?
Yes, 6-step process.
Right. Yes, Malek, I think you wanted to add something there. You're muted again, Malek.
I'm typing furiously here because of our Facebook questions. There's a Facebook question here about sort of essentially the following. This is from Abdul Musawir. Are financial planners tied to any financial products? That's the first question. Over to you, Sam.
Okay. Basically, when we work out the plan, we also will propose the implementations with the action plan in order to align your financial goal. So basically, in terms of the product, it is subject to client's agreement. They can actually opt out on the proposed solutions that we provide to them. They can actually choose to implement by themselves. But what is the role of the financial planner? The role of the financial planner is they will actually take the product that you choose to implement by yourself, and they will actually analyze for you without bias, neutral, which will align back to your financial goal. Why the financial planner is working on this way? It is because of you have paid and engaged them as your financial planner based on holistic advice.
The follow-up question by Musawir is basically, will it affect your objectivity? That means, will you so even if you do that, does it affect your objectivity? Is there, if you were to do the implementation for them, would you go, how can the client know for sure that you are actually choosing products that suits them rather than maybe has the higher commission or higher fees for you? Do you get commission from the other side? Do you get commissions from the product from the insurance companies or the unit trust companies and so on? When you advise clients?
Maybe I take this question, Malek.
Yep.
You see, because the financial plan was developed with the intention of client interest first. The planner will actually put himself on client's position and provide independent advice. For example, if a client engaged me for an investment advice, and I realized that the cost is going to be higher on my part, I should have I have an obligation to refer them to another agent, maybe to continue with the product implementation. So the client interest comes first.
Okay, all right. Here's a question from Shouter Ismay. Interesting pseudonyms on the Facebook. For current situation, making investments is risky unless you're long term. This is a very specific situation. I have 2 children, one in primary school, one at 5 years of age, very young children. Is it advisable to draw up an education savings plan now rather than trying to invest for returns? I'm curious as to what he means about education savings plan versus investment. Do you have experience of questions like this? People with young people, they want something, I guess, to develop. Would you recommend an investment type product, or would you recommend like a savings plan, which has, I guess, some other elements into it as well?
This come back again to the financial goal, Malek. What is the time horizon they have? What is the goal of the children's education? Whether they're going to let the child study in Malaysia locally or in overseas. So it's go back to the.
Let's use your example. Basically, they want the kids to go to Australia for university education. They're 2 and 5 years old right now. Would you recommend a savings plan or other types of investment?
Yeah, I normally suggest and saving plans, or they start accumulating some properties in Australia. There's many other avenue to develop the education plan, but it all depends on the time horizon. If they're going to have only about 2 to 3 years for them to send the child to Australia, then it's going to be very difficult. Looking for other opportunities. Exactly goes back to the goal of the.
Okay. In this scenario, Sam, you have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I guess a 13-year time horizon, 14-year time horizon. Would you go for a savings plan, or would you recommend a savings plan, or would you recommend a sort of an investment, investing in ETFs, or investing in an investment vehicle, investment fund, through unit trust fund to get you there, or buy an Australian property? Gunnar is recommending buying an Australian property.
Okay, so basically, if based on long-term goal, more than 10 to 15 years time horizon, we will advise to use investment vehicle. Reason is actually we need to actually let our money work harder. Okay, we always actually do the comparisons within saving plan, the internal rate of returns. Okay, versus the investment returns that into investment vehicle, we always find out that the investment vehicles return will help out to actually getting the higher returns on that. Okay, in order to achieve your goal.
Okay, all right. Yep. So there's another follow-up question here. The follow-up question here. Monthly net income minus EPF minus basic expenses. This is tough. I think it's a Poon. I think you need your question on Facebook. It's really detailed. I think this is the part where you have to kind of like sit down and first have to work it yourself. You're asking basically how many percent should I use for insurance? Your surplus, right? How many percent you should use on insurance? How much percent on equity, and so on. All right. Anyway. Besides all, I don't think we can go into specifics, but I'm just wondering if if you have a surplus, right? If you have a surplus, what should you do with that surplus? Say you have your income is 8,000, you have a surplus of 1,000 a month, right? After paying all expenses, and I guess what should you do with that surplus? I guess that depends on goals, right?
Yep.
Yes. But first thing, they need to develop the emergency fund. That's the first thing. That's the first goal they should develop.
Okay, and I will ask Poon to write on Facebook how many months is his emergency fund. Okay, next one, Joe Chong. If one has a roadmap, how often? I guess a roadmap plan. How often should the roadmap be reviewed? So we have some of your clients created plans last year. Now we have COVID, and then in 2019, 2020, everything changed. What would you recommend in terms of timeframes to review your plans?
Yearly basis is better. Yearly basis.
Yearly
Because,
basis.
yes.
And if you have a crisis like this, maybe put a call through again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if what if, for example, a product that your implementation phase, you've recommended a plan, but that product is not fulfilling the expectations, right? The investment expectations, etc. What would you do? Should you pull the product? Should you should you have a different implement differently?
It depends on the goal. Go back to our goal, Malek. If it's for long term, if the product was opt for a long term, then you should not be worrying about the market movement. If this is short term, then I think we need to look into it immediately. What are the rebalancing, how to restructure the portfolio, and so on.
Okay. Another question. I feel like I'm the sort of the Facebook guy here. Lung Fong Yi, would you propose those online platforms which is low or no commission to your client? For example, I think they're talking about sort of the robo investment services that are out there right now. Would you recommend those things?
Okay, let me think.
Sam?
Okay, I would like to actually encourage you all to explore with the financial planning firm. Some of the firm is actually offer zero sale charge for some of the investment if you are engaging them as a financial planner, because since you have engaged them, certain investment they actually putting in zero sale charge. So with that, right, when you receive the implementation plan or solution provided by the financial planner, they will tend to give you few options of the solutions. Then they will actually identify what is the pro and con on every investment portfolio that they have putting in to propose to you. So rather than you put yourself into study your own, maybe you are not a subject matter master. Okay, so you may make a wrong decision and out the cost structure is even more expensive. Okay.
I think I can add that fact that it is about robo advisory investment services are part of the mix of your investment, but I think you need a plan first, right?
Yeah.
You can utilize it, I'm sure, and a unit trust also you can utilize it and so on. But I think it needs to be part of a plan. You want to use a robo advisory service, don't just do it on just like a product base. Oh, that's a robo investment service.
Yes.
I'll go for that. You need to have a plan. This is your time horizon and so on. Okay, there's a question by Leonard, but I won't go there because I think I like to end on a high note. His question was about financial planners who are bad apples. If they're bad apples, report them to Securities Commission. That's all I can say, or Bank Negara, as they might be. And so, Roshan, over to you to sort of, I guess, wrap things up about this session.
So essentially, I think, so just to relate to what we just talked about, there can be multiple products in your financial plan, right? So whether it's a unit trust, whether it's insurance product, whether it's a digital investment management system, these are all different components of that financial plan. And what a financial planner or what a financial plan is supposed to do is essentially build out that roadmap, to use the word that was used just now. Essentially, that GPS, so that you know where you're going, how you're going to get there, and give you a little bit of confidence in your financial well-being now and going forward. And actually, we've got the, just talking about this, our next webinar is actually on Friday at 12 p.m. And we'll be taking a look at families and basically how to manage your family budget during and after the MCO. I mean, it's one thing to survive the MCO. What do you do to thrive after? And on Friday, we'll be speaking to Fatin, Rosli, and Sam. You'll be back again, both of you from Wealth Vantage Advisory, to deep dive here on how to manage that. And this is something you should probably bring in your whole family to watch, do a Facebook watch group and get everyone involved. Now, there's also another webinar done by our colleagues over at the Enterprise team on the Recovery Roundtable. And this will be on Thursday, the 30th of April at 12:30, this Thursday. and there'll be a guest moderator, Brian Chin. This will be taking a look again at how can SMEs come back from the trouble that they've seen in this movement control order. And with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Sam, thank you. Guna, thank you for joining us. Malek, thank you for co-moderating and being our Facebook question guy today.
I'll just say something. Our Facebook team is going to put up a short survey. I think webinars is interesting, as you say. There's an interesting way of communicating. So at BFM, although we do radio, we are now doing webinars, a lot of webinars too. Would appreciate your feedback on not just this particular webinar, but how you consume webinars as a whole. The time you like to, the time, the length, the kind of like interactivity that you like on a webinar platform. Please, if you, our team is going to put it up on Facebook. If you could just fill up that. If you just watched this webinar, would be deeply appreciative if you can put your feedback through there. Appreciate it very much. Roshan?
And once again, the next webinar will be on Thursday at 12:30. That's a recovery roundtable where we've got a guest moderator, Brian Chin, who will be talking to Ren Yi Chin of My Burger Lab, Michelle Chai of Kintree, and Ahmad Anis of Whimsy Girl. And our next webinar, the personal finance one, will be on Friday, 12 p.m., where Sam will be joining us again with her colleague at Wealth Vantage Advisory, Fatin. And on that note, and we'll be talking about managing family expenses during and after the MCO. Now, thank you everyone for joining us today. Please give us your feedback. We're always looking forward to that. And have a good week ahead. Catch you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.